What up, people? This is Vigilante for Tell It Like a T.I. Is, YourBlackWorld.net, ReasonForRhymes.com, and I have on the line with me right now Mr. Dr. Samoy Swaggart, and he's gonna be participating in Intellectual Gang Banging Part 2. Where do we go now? What up, Samoy?
What's going on, brother? How you doing? And Happy New Year to everybody in the audience and the listeners.
No doubt, bro. I'm doing all right, man. Just kind of disturbed about all this gang banging that's going on. You know, we have to worry about the gang banging on the streets and all the violence going on the street with police brutality, and then Kansas City, where I'm at, a lot of young people are losing their life, going to jail, shooting each other. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole lot of funerals happened in the last 3 weeks in Kansas City, man. But as I look at in the field, all the stuff that's going on in the house. I see a whole lot of people that's supposed to be taking us to the next level, so to speak. They're fighting with each other. All this intellectual gang banging, who's the smartest, who got the most intelligence, who can lead the person this way. It's 1,000 roads, brother, to success. And all we got to do is choose one, but everybody's fighting, though, how to get there. What do you say?
Yeah, I think you're correct. It's definitely, I like the term intellectual gang banging. It's like a cyber Chirac, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because now in the advent and the age of the internet and cyberspace, there's so many different mediums in which people can convey messages, their viewpoints, their philosophies, and theories on things. And it's all right. I think everybody should have their right to express their opinions and views. But with this intellectual gangbanging, what we're seeing, and especially in terms of what we're talking about for progress for Black Americans, or however you want to phrase it. Whether you just want to say African, if you want to say African American, if you want to say Black American, if you want to use melanoid people, you know what I'm talking about when we say these terms. Oftentimes, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is people have different takes on where we should go, which aspect we need to take. People have different angles and perspectives. But what we're seeing is people engaging in discourse that is ultimately negative. One person may have their crowd, they may have their followers, and, they have valid points. And the key thing is, nobody has the ultimate solution. I think the ultimate solution is the conglomeration of everybody's input. But what I'm seeing is people want to have their input be the ultimate. They want that they take, like gangbanging, people are taking these shots at individuals and thus ultimately sabotaging the whole progress of African Americans and uplifting us from where we are in today's situation, where we talk about economics, education, everything. So yeah, you're right. And real quick, bitch, I'm driving to DC, and there's this little hot zone that comes up where I usually lose signal. So if I do lose signal, I'll call you right back. But go ahead.
Oh, yeah, we're going to keep it going. We'll piece this sucker together. But it leads me to a whole other situation. You see a whole lot of things. Well, we know what white supremacy is. We know what the ultimate outcome is for white supremacy. But I think that during this intellectual gang banging, we're not looking at the fact that some of our arguments or some of our attacks on each other is playing right into their hands. Because if you got some of the smartest and brightest people for the progress of black people fighting each other, that's no different when you took the slaves, the two strongest slaves, and they're fighting against each other to please who? Ultimately, it's pleasing the person that's trying to take you down, because that means that one person is about to be eliminated, and collectively, if we attack together, but some of the vicious attacks on some of our brightest minds has came from our own people. What do you say?
I say you're right. I think that you're correct. It's reminiscent of the movie Django and the movie Mandingo. If you're familiar with that, and if the listeners are familiar, those scenes in there are very emblematic, where you had the two slaves that were fighting each other in front of the master. So in Django, they were fighting in front of Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and and another guy, Christoph Waltz or something like that, in front of the fireplace, fighting to the death. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they were fighting to see who had who would be the strongest slave that would be used to fight for money. And, basically ended up killing the other one. And also, if you notice, he gave him the hammer at the end to completely kill him, If you look at Mandingo, it was the same thing, in that fight scene. They had to kill that slave, fighting each other. Now, that's one thing. Now you fast forward, it's the same thing that happened with J. Edgar Hoover and COINTELPRO, where you had the Black Panthers, and then you had a couple of the Chicago street gangs. I'm not sure if it was like the Black Keystone Rangers or it was one of these street gangs, or maybe a few, where COINTELPRO was creating false letters and sending them back and forth between the Panthers and the gangs to create discord, discord where we're beefing and fighting against each other. So now the fight and the energy and the time and attention is redirected towards fighting against ourselves as opposed to fighting against the system of racism and white supremacy. So this is what you're seeing with intellectual gangbanging. We are basically fighting each other, and we are not addressing the system. So that's where we are. You're correct.
Yeah. So, and what's disheartening is Miss Dr. Welsing, passed away. She's probably she's for a person, the novice mind, she's probably more famous for hitting covers than the other work that she's doing for years and decades. And she passed away. And the sad thing, and that's one of our queens that's fought for the struggle. But then you get all these different comments on her at a time. I'm talking about her body ain't even dead for 24 hours, and it's already a lot of controversy going down on her and about her, and people saying what they need to say, to the point that we don't honor our people anymore. It's like before they hit the ground, it's like, well, she did this, and that leads me to the other part of the game banging. Do we dig up people's stuff, or what you disagree? Can we show respect? Because I know white people don't do their people like that. They don't do it to people like that, especially their people that they hold high esteem for. But yet we see attacks on Dr. Welsing when she can't defend herself and things like that. So how do we supposed to look at this intellectual gangbanging and say that, wow, this is progress by them attacking her work because of homosexuality? And that's another thing I want to talk about a little bit later, is the role that plays into the agenda of progress. Is the homosexuality part of her supersedes the progress for black people totally? You tell me.
Right. So the thing is, what we saw with Dr. Welsing, and it really hurt because I stopped by her room the night before she passed away. I was heading to Virginia, but before I headed to Virginia, I stopped by her room, and she had friends and family there that were, praying with her and looking over her and everything. And, that hit me real hard, and it was just literally, it was like the next morning, I checked my text messages and Facebook, and you saw that she transitioned. And so that was a big blow, and then, like you said, it was not even 24 hours. It wasn't a figure of speech. It was literally less than 24 hours where people are going in on her like, oh, and the thing is that I don't like about it is the veil of, well, we're just being analytical and critical about her. No, this person just passed away, and the thing is, what makes it so disgraceful is the fact that they literally ignored her entire body of work, her book, the ISIS papers. They scurried past all of her YouTube videos and all the content that she addressed. And if they were real followers of her work, you would see that she did not gay bash. She was not spreading hate. She simply said she does not endorse homosexuality, and everybody has their right to say, well, that's not my thing, or that is my thing. There's a difference between that and saying, I hate gays and I think gays should be, those are two totally different things. You have the right to say, I don't believe in that practice, and here's my reasons. But now here's the other thing that I think people need to pay attention to. If you were a follower of her work, you would repeatedly know that she always spoke about racism and white supremacy in her practice. And it was, she always said white supremacy. We have to discuss economics. We have to discuss economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. So y'all picked sex. That's the only thing y'all picked up. Sex. Yep. Her point of view on sex. But you did not address her stance of how white supremacy is pervasive through economics, through education, through war, through religion, entertainment, media, none of that. You specifically focused on that and said, oh, we need to reevaluate this and da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's kind of like, come on. If you are going to really give a real analysis of our queen's body of work, be fair, be holistic, be circumspect in your whole analysis of the person, and don't cherry pick one thing. You're not doing her correct justice. And if it was your eulogy, you would be ashamed in your grave looking at the eulogy if somebody just picks one thing and doesn't even honor or even acknowledge the full breadth of what you've done.
And see, and that's the sad thing about it, because if you're a novice person, all you're going to look at is see what they're talking about with the homosexuality thing and the gay so-called bashing, and that's not the case. And that goes to another thing. Are we putting our sexual preference over what the movement is?
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm saying right. It's like, how do we prioritize what is very important? Is your sexual practice, your sexual preference, no matter what anybody says or does, you can go home and do whatever it is that you want to do in the bedroom. Whether you're heterosexual, having sex male between male and female, whether you're homosexual, having sex between, two women or two men, whether you want to be transgender, whatever, you can do that. But at the end of the day, when you walk out of that bedroom and you finish your practice, you're still dealing with racism and white supremacy when you go on the job, or if you're able to get a job, because you may have racists in the hiring, in the human resource, in the hiring practice. When you talk about a lot of these legislative bills that are being passed, when you deal with gentrification that's happening. So that's all around, but you're just focusing on the sexual aspect of what she's saying. And then at the end of the day, people are acting like racism does not exist within the homosexual community. I have to do some research myself. I do some research myself and look at some YouTube videos, because I like to be right and exact when I address things, and I don't like speaking off the top of my head. So I said, let me Google and YouTube racism in the homosexual community, and you'd be surprised at the videos that I found where homosexuals are talking about the racist experiences that they've had in the homosexual community. So if we're going to talk about it in its entirety. And like Dr. Welsing said, this is not about hating anybody, but it's just about pointing out the facts. So, yeah.
And to me, it's just disrespectful, straight up, man. Disrespectful to, somebody pass away. And if our actions, if our attitudes become that of white supremacy, then all we doing is transferring the color. Because remember I told you about sophisticated, domesticated house nigga. He's so sophisticated, domesticated, but he's still a house nigga. It's just he can blend in. So we got these people that's going out there bashing or saying that whatever you want to say with it. You know what I'm saying? And my thing is, when I saw that, I was like, that don't even make sense to have a little compassion and respect. But when we come and we just whores for the blog, and things like that, then we got a problem. And then when we swing at you, saying, what are you doing? Then what it does, either way, on both ends, Nobody wins, and it don't help us. The gang banging hurts us because we already got to deal with this stuff in the field. In the house, we're supposed to be infiltrating the house to take over the house. But what good is taking over the house if you're going to act just like the slave master?
Right.
I'm telling you.
Right.
And that's what I addressed on the first intellectual gang banger. We got to stop, or we got to in-house that gang banging. You feel me? Because when we put it out in the air, we just give more ammunition. And here's the thing about history, brother, is that we have to learn from history. You know the old cliche saying, if you don't learn from history, you do to repeat it? Well, we've seen people infiltrate Malcolm X. We've seen people infiltrate different places to get in, and it was by our own people to infiltrate stuff so that they could win. FBI could win, and other people that was against the Panthers, X, and, hell, far as I'm concerned, King, Kennedy, you name it, they got in. So my thing is, if we got no united front, then what the hell are we fronting for? And that goes to my other question. Can tribalism work in the black community? Because when you see a person on the street, you see a sister or a brother, we say, sister, what's up, my sister? What's up, my brother? Because we're looking at the color saying, there's a connection. But really, is there really a connection anymore? Right. I don't know, man. I don't know if tribalism works, man. I know that's a whole other question. I did that blog a couple weeks ago. I don't know, man, because the ones that mentally think because if tribalism worked, when Dr. Welsing died, people would talk about the great things about her. Because normally, if you're not well-read or into those studies, the only thing I say the average Joe that's on the streets would know her face from Hit Colors and the other thing she was in. Like, what was it, Baby Boy?
She spoke, she did
something on that, did she? She did something on that.
Well, what he did was, I think, John Singleton, he opened the movie where Tyrese was breaking down Dr. Welsing's theory. That's what I'm talking about. So when you have those situations, that's what you're going to know her from. And then you're going to know her from the things, okay, who's this lady? Because I put the post on my page telling her rest in peace. I said, if you don't know who Dr. Welsing is, look her up. You see all her special guests on shows and her teachings all over YouTube. That's a great thing about YouTube because you can go back and research it, Right. And I think that the novice person who probably just going to look at the story, face value, may click on that, going to go by this. They're going to go by exactly what these people are saying about her. That. Right.
And, but this can get ugly, man. And the thing is, it shouldn't, because if we don't show honor to the people that worked hard, given their life to help us, then hell no, tribalism don't work. Because the people and the freedom fighters and the people that really put their life on the line for it, this is the respect they get after they die.
Yeah, no, it's ugly, And the other thing is such a disservice for people that are trying to, because we have young people every day. You have younger people and older people that are becoming more aware about who they are as blacks in America, what position they're in, and they're trying to gain some type of understanding of why they're in the position they're in, what they can do to remedy that how and the why. A lot of people are coming into awareness. And when you have people do what they just did to Dr. Welsing, what you've done is you have prematurely pulled the plug on what she has to offer. You have prematurely sabotaged her message. Because you know how people always talk about spoiler alerts when it comes to movies? Like, oh, don't tell them, you just spoiled. You've just made a spoiler of what she has to offer, because we know that 9 times out of 10 in these days times, a lot of people won't do the research. They won't sit down and read the book. They're like, it's over 200 pages, I'm not going to read it. Oh, the video is like an hour-long video, or I can't watch it. So by you saying that, they're not even going to get the rest of the meat, of what she's offering. And they didn't even acknowledge everything else that she said. Such a disservice. Such a
It
disservice.
is, man. Disrespectful, man. Hey, man, we're going to get back in part. I guarantee there'll probably be an intellectual game banging part 3, bro. So, so we'll hold tight on that, man. I'm glad that you got on and got a chance to be a part of what we're doing with this thing, man, because at the end of the day, bro, if we don't wake up, all of us, and dial down our ego for the bigger cause, it's going to be show business. It's just the entertainment of being an activist, the entertainment of being somebody that's for the people. It'll all be just stick. It won't be substance to it because it's like I say, this is just sad. We'll get on the Bill Cosby thing later, bro, but this intellectual game manual, and if I'm a younger person, it's sad to almost say, if you go into this area trying to save your people and feel consciousness, you damn near feel helpless. Because if your big people that you look up to are fighting with each other, they're not respecting the elders, their life work, it's almost like, hell, might as well be Fetty Wap.
Right.
Might as well be these people. You might as well be these people because at the end of the day, if you stop doing that and do this, you're going to walk into this thing. Like, wait a minute. I gave up this lifestyle to do this? It's the same thing. It's the same thing, bro. People are jockeying to be the number one guy. Who's the number one activist? Who's the number one this? They're jockeying. No difference. Who's the number one rapper? Who's the number one athlete? It's the same damn thing.
Uh-huh. And you know what, Vince?
All right. Go ahead.
I know you're about to like, convene, but this, I just want to give an analogy. This is this is like somebody's parent that has died, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're at the funeral. You're at the funeral, and they're like, do you have any words to say about, your mom or your dad? And you're like, well, everybody here is, praising her and everything, but I'm just saying, I really want to go out to the clubs when I was 17, and, she didn't want me going out partying at the clubs because she felt like it put my life at risk. So I really didn't like that. I feel like she was suppressing my quest into being an individual and completely ignoring the fact that that parent provided a household for you, probably paid college tuition for you, bought your clothes whenever you needed your clothes, took you to a basketball camp, took you to cheerleading, took you to karate, we forget all the other stuff, but we just harp on this one thing, and for that, we negate that whole positive aspect and influence and impact of that parent. So that's all.
You're 100% right, man. When I'm counseling women and men and their couples, it's also a thing called the one that loves the least controls the relationship. Where in this case, the one that loves the least controls what you think about the person that you're dealing with. Because they get the last word. But I'm glad some people are responding back and giving a person that's novice to see both sides of it now. That person can throw a statement out and somebody that can counter it. Thank God somebody had some stuff to counter and show the great works of her and not just tag her to one thing. It's almost like getting in trouble, when you're 18 or 20, you make a mistake and go to jail, and that's hell against you forever. Either all the other good stuff you did. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's how racism is. See, to me, it's another derivative of racism. Okay, the black man stole my purse, so all black people steal purses now. You feel me? That's exactly what this is. You can't get away from the stigma. That's exactly what this is. All right, man. You know how we do, man. We will connect again. 3HM is in the building. This has been Vigilante and Dr. Samori Swagger for YourBlackWorld.net. Reason for Rob. Tell it like a TI is, and we just told it. And we are the movement, and we are out.